Welcome to Whachacha's Tabletop World, the channel devoted to the love of board gaming. My name is Sweetness Whachacha, and this is a spoiler-free overview of Flashpoint Legacy of Flame. If you'd like to see my thoughts on the game, click on the link down below. Okay, so Flashpoint Legacy of Flame is a legacy style of game. If you're not familiar with that concept, you will be playing in sort of a campaign, which is interconnected stories where one episode will impact the next. However, a legacy style game will have the additional things where you can open up hidden components, you will be adding stickers, writing on the board, just physically destroying components, and making, by the end of the game, a version of Flashpoint that no one else has. This is just your version of this game. Now, this game is replayable after you complete the campaign. You can sort of reset it and just play it as you would normally play Flashpoint. So I should also mention that this is based on, the very popular game of Flashpoint, which has had a base game and a ton of extra map and other kinds of expansions. Okay, so I should mention that this is spoiler-free. However, the campaign is set up as Prologue 1, Prologue 2, and then Episodes 1 through 12. Now, I'm going to show you what comes with Episode 1. That is going to be revealed. Prologue 1 and Prologue 2 are not a complete game. Episode 1 starts you how you would start with a normal game of Flashpoint. So the others are just sort of training wheels, so to speak. All right, so let's take a look at what comes in the box. Okay, so you're going to get some hidden envelopes here. You're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this from emergency use only. They're going to have things that you're not intended to look at until the game instructs you to. However, the contents of envelope 1 are just the base game of Flashpoint. If you've ever played Flashpoint before, that's going to be in there, and so I will be revealing what's in that because it's just the base game, essentially. Okay, so you're also going to get a couple of envelopes here, the Reserve, the Firehouse, and then the box itself will be known as the Archive. You'll be instructed to put cards in various places at various times, either to be removed from the game forever that you won't be able to ever see them, or just they're going to be placed in one of these envelopes and you'll be able to access them for the next episode. So sort of a save system there. You're also going to get this paragraph book, which is going to be like little snippets of story that you're going to read when instructed to. That's going to make up the story element of the campaign. You're also going to get this episode guide, which is kind of going to double as the instruction booklet to introduce the game. You're going to have Prologue 1, Prologue 2, and then Episodes 1 through 12. Now this is I'm going to recommend again. If you have played Flashpoint before, you likely want to just start with Episode 1. There are some rules changes for the prologue that may add some confusion. I'm going to show you the actual rule book that you just start with if you just start with Episode 1. So you will still need this for the episode guide. That'll show you like how to set up each of the games themselves, like basic print training for prologue. So there are going to be some rules that you're going to have to consult in here. But mainly, this is going to be the rule book for the game, the Fighter's Handbook here, contents, of course. And the only reason I'm really showing you this is because in the legacy style game, things are going to change consistently through all of the episodes. You're going to get new abilities, new rules, new challenges and things like that. But in order to keep the rule book nice and tidy and easy to find things, there's this really cool system that they have, which is kind of a pandemic legacy system, where you'll add in rules. You'll put stickers in here to change the rules. So for the setup, there's going to be some kind of rules change here. Eventually, you'll get different movement and stuff like that. So there are spaces that will be filled in later, adding extra rules and making so that you can still find things quite easily. If you look for, you want to look for chop, well, there's going to be different rules here or whatever. So it's kind of a nice way to do that, an evolving sort of instruction booklet here. You're also going to get board book 1 and board book 2. They're going to have the maps inside them. You're going to use both of them. So without spoiling anything, I'm going to turn to, this is the training mission here. So, and then you'll open this book up and that'll be the other training mission here. And you'll put those together and that will create the map that you'll play on. I haven't gone through all these, but there's different, you can probably combine different ways. We'll see what happens throughout the campaign, but that's how that works. You also get some packs of cards specific to each episode. They'll have various things in them that will guide the story and be the fire event deck, which we'll go into in a minute. So there's stuff for each of the different campaign, episodes here, additional fire decks that will change the rules of the game as well. And then in this packet, there'll be stuff that you're going to use for that episode, but then also, things that you might win or lose, I guess, at the end of each of the episodes. There's also the stop here, which is like a warning to prevent you from accidentally, looking through these cards as they are secret. You also get these little reminder cards, which has the turn order here and the game end, conditions as well. And then there's also, a listing of the action points that various actions cost, as well as some scratch off pieces here. So you'll scratch these off at the end of episode 2 and 4. So I don't know what's behind there either. So quick spoiler alert, if you do want to play through the prologue and you don't want to see what happens in just like the base game, you can skip the next 30 seconds or so, but I'm going to show you what comes with that. Okay, so you're going to get the different specialists that you're used to from normal Flashpoint. You're going to have different abilities here. It's going to show you how many action points you have to spend in a round, and then it's going to give you a special ability. There are spots to put additional stickers and to hold equipment. You'll write your name here and place an image here. These are all stickers that you can add, and there's different specialists. For instance, you can heal, Vic marker on a victim in your space. You can move a threat marker from space adjacent to you. Give any player, including yourself, a saved AP at the end of your turn. When you remove an adjacent threat marker, you may move into that space for 0 action points. You can fire the deck gun more efficiently. You can move and carry diagonally. Chop actions are a little cheaper, and then the generalist has 5 action points. And then again, like some of these, the better characters might have a better ability, and so they have fewer action points to spend on their turn. Again, you've got stickers here, so you can kind of, personalize each of the characters, give them a name, etc., and you can do that. Various game effects will allow you to add and remove stickers from your card, injury and equipment stickers here, and those will be placed on your card as well, so those come in there, as well as getting some accommodations, so there's some stickers there as well. You also get a card for your fire engine, and then it has some equipment storage for the game as well. You're also going to get these POIs, persons of interest or points of interest. They're going to have on one side a question mark, and when you move into that space, you'll be able to reveal this for free. And sometimes it'll be nothing, so that was like a false alarm. Sometimes it'll be a person that you have to get out of the burning building. Okay, so that's a great segue into how do you win and lose the game. Okay, so much like normal Flashpoint, you'll win the game if you rescue 7 people from the building. That's getting them out of the building and into an ambulance. If 3 or more people are killed, you will lose the game, and I'll go into that in a moment, how they can be killed. Additionally to this, there's a little bit of a wrinkle from the original game. If you have won the game, you can continue playing to save more and more people. Now, of course, you'll be rewarded for this. However, there is a risk associated because even though you've technically won, if you choose to keep playing, well, you can still lose. And if you do lose in that interim kind of period, the game is actually not marked a win, but now is marked a loss. Additionally, if you run out of time, they say, which is when all the damage markers are placed out, then the building collapses and the players lose the game. And then there's, of course, some repercussions from that as well. You saw before, you'll have one of these cards with an image here, a name, and a special ability, and then you're going to have a color associated with that character. Now, the reason you'll have a miniature color and card and not just assigned to the role that you have here is because throughout the game you will have the opportunity to go back to the fire truck and change your role. So you'll be able to. That's like a sort of special ability that you'll be able to do, and so you're not kind of assigned to one specific firefighter. Okay, so let's take a look at the board itself and how fire works a little bit so we can get a better understanding of how to play the game on a player's turn. Okay, so first thing to notice is that there are these spaces here, and that's what you'll move through as your firefighter. There is art here like a table, etc. Those are just cosmetic. You can still move to these spaces just fine. You'll also notice there are die markings on the board itself. We'll go into that when we talk about how to put out fire. You'll also notice these circles here, and at the beginning of the game you'll be putting doors on all of these circles, and this will denote a closed door, this will denote an open door. If a door is open, you can pass through just fine, but also fire can pass through just fine. So you may want to close doors in some instances. If a door is destroyed through an explosion of fire, you will remove it, and this will indicate that that wall is broken. This is now an adjacent space. There's no door there anymore. You can also do this with any of these thick white lines here. You can't pass over these normally. However, if through a fire adds a damage, that's considered a damaged wall. And then if it has 2, that's just considered a destroyed wall. You'll be able to pass through that space. These 2 spaces are considered to be adjacent. So you can chop down walls on purpose in order to get through easier, to bring through, to move around more effectively, to get people out. But also, that's going to be done from explosions that are going to damage the walls. The fire is going to damage the walls. And remember that once all of these, are out, that's one of the lose conditions. So if you don't have any more of these to put out, it's considered the building is now no longer structurally maintained and it's going to collapse on you. You'll also notice that we have a fire truck and an ambulance. The goal, of course, being to get the victims to the ambulance. You can move them around via a radio. I'll go on that in a moment. But you can only move them about, to these spots that are predetermined here. Sorry, that's at the top here. So you'll be able to do that. The fire truck itself as well, same thing. It can only move to these spots, but it can be radioed or driven around. You'll also notice these red lines that are going around here. This whole area was with the fire truck. That means that the fire truck can spray the hose as an action. We'll go to that moment in this quadrant here. So you'll notice each of the spaces, areas in the board here have a different quadrant surrounding that fire truck spot. We'll talk about what these symbols mean in a moment. This is when you bring more fire out. You'll see there's there's dice here and two different colored die, and that'll just be for putting out more fire. Speaking of fire, when fire comes onto the board, it'll actually come out as smoke. So you can have smoke kind of all over the board. If smoke is meant to be placed on another piece of smoke, then it will turn into fire. If fire is ever next to smoke, that smoke will turn into fire. So if you had a smoke added here, then this would turn into fire, and then this would turn into fire. And as I mentioned, you'll have these POIs around on the board, and you'll be hoping to go over and discover whether they're a person or whether they're sort of a false alarm, and you'll be wanting to get them out. Okay, so let's take a look at what a player can do on their turn. Okay, so this triage specialist here has 4 action points. So we're gonna have these 4 action points here. When you spend an action point, you'll show that it's been exhausted. So let's go through the list here. For 1 action point, you can move around. So as we said before, you can move just orthogonally, okay? If you want to move into a space with fire, that would cost you 2 action points. If you want to move with hazmat, there will be these dangerous chemicals or, like propane and gasoline and stuff. And if you want, you can carry these around with you because you're trying to get them out of the building. That's another thing that you're trying to do. These can cause explosions. If you're moving with the hazmat, it's going to cost you 2 action points to move any space. So you would exhaust multiples of these. Same thing if you're carrying a person of interest. So if you were carrying this person through, that would also cost you 2 action points to move them. You could not carry both a hazmat and a person. You cannot carry either a person or a hazmat into a fire because that will blow this up, injure you, and kill that person. So you cannot move them into a fire. However, you can go into a fire for 2. You can also, as I mentioned, open and close doors. And you can extinguish smoke. So if this was here, you could extinguish that. However, that would just repeat and become fire again. So if there was a smoke next to you, if you were standing here, you could spend an action point to remove that smoke. You could spend an action point to turn that into smoke and then another one to remove it. Or you can just straight up remove that for 2 as well. It's the same difference. As I mentioned, you can also chop the wall. So for 2 action points, you can add a damage marker. For 4, you can add a second damage marker and be able to get out. So this wall was previously damaged. You can spend 2 action points to put that to chop that wall, and then you can move into that room. You can also radio an ambulance, which costs 2 action points to move it to another space. You can either move it clockwise or counterclockwise. So if you wanted to move it to this space, that would cost you 2 and then another 2 action points. Same thing for the fire engine. Speaking of the fire truck, there's a couple of actions you can do there. You can change out your specialist, so you can get a new specialist card. However, you must do this as your first action. It costs you 2 action points, and then you would lose any equipment this firefighter was carrying. You would lose any saved action points. You would then be down 2 action points because it would have cost you that much to change that specialist, and then you can complete the rest of your turn as normal. You can also fire the deck gun, as I said, at this. So it's 4 to fire the deck gun. And when you do that, you're going to roll these 2 dice. So if I was standing here, I'd spend 4 actions. It's very expensive, my whole turn here, to spray into that area, and I would spray these, and you'll see it's 1 and 1. However, that is not included in my area here, so you would have to switch these over completely. So flip them on their heads, so that's 6 and 6, which would be this spot here. If there was fire in that spot or any spot adjacent to it, then you would remove. So if it was this spot here, you would remove this fire as well as these fires. Now, because as I mentioned before, these spots were not adjacent, so you would remove this, but there's a wall here. However, again, damaged walls, then you can move that away. If the door was here and you remove fire from this spot with the deck gun, then this would not get removed unless the door was open or missing. Again, another interesting thing here is if these spaces are considered adjacent, even though you're not allowed to spray into the space, if you took out this fire here, it would also count for this fire because it is adjacent to it. And then, of course, you can use special abilities like placing a heal marker, which allows you to move a person much easier and kind of guide them, or any other special ability that you may have. Anytime you want to end your turn, let's say in this instance you've spent 2 action points and you've got 2 left, you can do so and you will bank those as saved action points and you'll be able to use those on a future turn. However, you would use those first and spend them. As you can see, they do not flip over. So when you've completed your turn, you'll be doing the fire phase. First thing you're going to do is draw a card from the fire deck. Now, as I mentioned, there are different decks in the game to be accessed later, and they're going to be different, maybe story, different kind of things that may happen, events that may occur. I'm going to preserve spoilers as much as possible and just kind of show you what the major thing is going to be. Is most of the time there's going to be some element of advancing the fire, and what that means is you're going to roll dice. And you're going to, probably not on the board like I just did, but you'll see this is 5 and 1. So you'll find the 5 here, either on the top or the bottom, and then you'll find the 1, and that's where you'll put out smoke. Okay? If smoke ever touches smoke, so like let's say I rolled that here, and there was smoke there, then that would become fire. If there was fire there, then you would have what's called an explosion. And that's something that's going to happen. So fire would be placed in every spot next to it. It cannot go this way or this way. And so instead of that, you will damage this wall, damage this wall. If you had done so next to it, a door, okay, a closed door, you had an explosion, you would destroy that door. You would add here, and then in this spot, this is already open, as you can see. There's nothing there, and so that would be considered to be adjacent. If there's hazmat, so if there was a piece of hazmat here, and that went into the hazmat spot, you would have another explosion. So that would create another explosion there. So then you would put fire here, you put fire here. You can't put it here, so you would follow this to the end and place a fire here. And then, of course, this would have to get fire as well, and you can't because there's a wall here. And so you would add a damage marker. If a POI here was in a spot where you would add fire, then you would flip it, and if it was a person, that would go to the lost pile over here. When you're done with the fire deck, you'll look around for the POIs, and you'll see there are 1, 2 on the board, so then you would add as many as you needed to bring yourself back up to 3, and you would do that in the same exact way by rolling dice. So this is 3 and 3, so 3 and 3, you'd place it here. However, you'll see, if this is a situation where they would be on a fire that would kill them, and so you would follow these arrows and place, and then until you could place them outside of a fire. Okay, so that's my brief overview. Essentially, you're going to be going through the game, spending action points, etc., to put out fire, to move hazmat, out of the building, to move victims out of the burning building. You're going to be trying to bring them to the ambulance. You can radio to move around the ambulance and the fire truck. You can spray the deck gun and then you can, of course, put out fires, chop down walls to make it easier to traverse. And at the end of your turn, you can bank whatever actions you don't use your special abilities. And then the fire, you'll draw cards from the fire deck. We'll have various events. Maybe you might read things out of the paragraph book. And then, if you've managed to save 7 people, you can choose to continue for a better score, for better benefits, or you can choose to just win the episode. At the end of each episode, you'll be getting additional stickers or rules changes, or things will happen to advance the story as well as the mechanisms of the game. Again, you're going to be altering cards and destroying things as well. And then if, the building collapses, you will lose. And if the building, and if you've lost 3 people, you will lose. Either way, you're going to go to the next episode. And that's it. So if you'd like to see my thoughts on the game, you can click on the link below. But for now, I got to roll.